Remember, development is a process of ongoing change, of walking with people in a way that both they and you are brought into closer relationship with God, self, others, and the rest of creation. Development is fundamentally about change. Which raises the question, how do people actually change? What does the change process look like for human beings? Well, at a most fundamental level, people cannot experience lasting change without the power of the Holy Spirit. Unless God shows up and does a miracle, folks, there cannot be lasting change. But in addition to that scriptural truth, social scientists and educators have observed some common patterns in how most people experience change.
All change tends to start out of people's direct experience. Here's my life, here's what I know, here's my history, and any new information I'm going to get is going to be built upon that. But typically something happens in a person's life that makes them willing to look at their life and say, maybe I want life to be different than it is today. And there seems to be three basic triggers to change. One is a crisis. Something unexpected happens to me that just upsets my world. And all of a sudden I want to rethink my reality. My child dies unexpectedly. The hurricane comes through. Do I want to stay and live in New Orleans or not? I mean, it really causes you to say, man, maybe I need to reevaluate my life. A second trigger for change is this idea of a burden getting to the point where it can't be endured any longer. It's like, I just can't take it any longer. It's that woman in Guatemala who's lost her third child to malnutrition who says, no more. This is never happening again. I'm ready to see something different. It's that guy who just constantly has his electricity shut off and constantly can't pay their bills and goes from job to job to job and finally comes to a point of saying, this is not the way to live life. That's a trigger for change. And the third trigger for change is just simply seeing a different possibility, a new idea, a new way of living. You know, it's that kind of role modeling from the outside. Did you ever think that you could take the income you have and stretch your dollars further? Did you realize when you took that payday loan that the interest rate you're paying on an annual percentage rate is probably around 500%? Do you realize here in rural Nicaragua that we can get water from down below up to your mountain and pump there without electricity? Those are all just new ideas, a new way of seeing or doing something that can trigger people to say, wow, maybe my life can be different. So these triggers bring people to a point where they're willing to look at their lives and reflect upon what's been and what could be. And then the next step or the next stage of the change process is to act on that decision, to go implement it. And out of that, you're going to see what worked, what helped, what didn't help, and now your life situation is different. When we say that development is an empowering process, this is the process we're talking about. This process of looking at your life, some trigger causing you to be ready to do that, reflect on your reality, make decisions for a better future, acting on it. That's what it means to be empowered. That's what we mean by the empowering process.
If you ask a person what do they have, to me, you've already told that person that you are somebody because you got something. That's what you said. You just left a door wide open for that person to think, you know, instead of ask that person, what can I do for you? You know, those questions is like night and day.
Freddie Weaver grew up in a small town in East Florida and spent over 30 years of his adult life on the streets controlled by his substance abuse. That is, until he found his circle of support. A local organization full of people committed to helping him discover his God-given abilities, potential, and dreams. With ongoing training classes, encouragement, and discipleship, Freddie put feet to the hopes he had always longed for, building his own business.
This is like my little office. This is my office back here. And this is where I keep my yards at. This is my scheduling. Like today's Thursday, I only had like 2 yards. But I had like 14 yards that was overdue, so I'm squeezing them in my schedule some kind of way.
You know, sometimes people can see in you what you don't see in yourself because you're so depressed, you're feeling so bad, and you're thinking one way, you're always thinking down or not really positive the way you should be thinking. But then there's somebody can spot something in you that you just don't see in yourself. And somebody was willing to see something in me that I probably didn't see in myself. And that's why I'm where I'm at, and I know that is.
And so I love the model, the idea that people from different communities are coming together and that you're trying to help not only this person improve their own standing, but you're putting yourself in a situation where I'm humble and open enough to learn about your world as I'm walking alongside of you.
I think if you learn to listen to a person's need, you can help them. But if you're not listening to that person, you're not going to know how to help them. If you ask a person the right question, it's going to open a big door for them to think more of themselves than less of themselves. Yeah, it's a big difference.
One of the primary features of poverty is lack of access to social networks. We underappreciate this because we have access to networks. Think about how you got your job. Almost everybody gets a job because they know somebody who's already working at the place. That's how I got my job. What if you're socially isolated, you don't know somebody? Think about trying to go and get a bank loan. If you know the banker or the loan officer, it goes a little better, doesn't it? One of the primary things that teams of mentors do is not just address the brokenness at the individual level. They can start to address the systemic brokenness by providing access for materially poor people to the institutions and systems that are healthy for human flourishing. Now, as you look at your church, there's a number of things you're looking for, but the thing that's going to be in shortest supply and the thing that you need the most to help that lady with her electric bill are teams of supportive people to walk with that woman across time. If poverty is rooted in broken relationships, you're not going to solve the problem by giving that woman money. You're going to solve the problem by walking with her in highly relational, empowering ways that help her discover her gifts and to develop those gifts so that she doesn't need to come back and ask for help with her electric bill over and over and over again. The problem is that what our churches don't have are groups of people willing to do this. Most of our poverty alleviation strategies and funding sources are funding a material approach to poverty alleviation when what we need is a relational approach to poverty alleviation. That's the problem. This is a hard message, but it's true. Development is a process of change, and so it can only occur with people who are willing to change. If a person is not willing to change, you can't change that in them. You can pray for them, but at the end of the day, if a person is not interested in change, you can't make that happen for them. There's often a continuum that's used to describe the range of people and their openness to change. So on the very left end of the spectrum are those who see no problem. They don't see anything wrong. Well, it's pretty hard to affect change in people's lives if they don't actually think there's anything wrong at all with their life. A little bit further up from them are those who recognize that there's something wrong, but they don't really believe it's their responsibility to pursue change. They're looking for somebody else to change. They don't think that they need to. Now, I want to be careful here. It is often the case that people are in the situation they're in because of their own behaviors, because of choices that they've made. But it's not always the case. Remember, the systems are broken too. But regardless of how one has ended up in the situation, stewardship of resources, stewardship of gifts requires people take whatever efforts they can to effect positive change in their lives. A little further up are those who are open to change, but they're fearful that what you're suggesting might not work well. They're fearful that your idea might not actually help them. You have to listen very carefully to those people because they might actually know something about their situation that you don't understand. They may actually understand why what you are suggesting is dangerous for them, why it's risky for them, and why it might not work for them. They might actually know something.
If I didn't accept the help, I don't think it was nothing nobody can do for me. I think that deep inside I had to want this change. I had to want this. Yes, it's good to have somebody to kind of guide you along. You gotta want it from within. That's my belief. I think the only reason that I'm sober is partly to do what a lot of people helping me, but it's mainly to do what I wanted this.
Is it good stewardship of our time and resources to spend it on people who themselves aren't really at a stage where they want to change? Is that part of what we need to think about when we think about helping poor people? Measure receptivity and work with people who are open to it, have some issues, but that you can work with to help them move forward to bring change in their lives.